Welcome to the Construction Brothers Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Campbell, and with me, like he is every week, my brother, Eddie Campbell.
What's up, Tyler?
Not much, Eddie. Well, this week we were talking about the arc of innovation. Hey, Tom, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been great to be here.
Heck yeah. Where are you calling from? First-time caller here.
San Francisco today.
Very nice. I'm sure the weather's looking pretty nice out there right now.
It is. Nice and sunny.
There you go.
Tyler,
Yeah.
I got a bone to pick this week.
With me?
Yeah.
What?
Well, so you know how you've been after me about this whole thumbnail thing? Like thumbnails matter on YouTube. Thumbnails matter on YouTube.
They do.
Even you brought my son in on this to try to like weaponize him against me.
I did weaponize him against you.
And then what happened this last week? I kind of took it upon myself to do a thing.
You tried, sir. You tried to design.
I tried mightily.
Mightily. I don't think it was very mightily.
It was mightily. I channeled every ounce of creativity I had. There are not many ounces in there, I grant you, but I did try.
You did something.
Yeah, and
it was something.
But I sent you that something, and what did you do with it?
I didn't respond to it.
You did nothing, man.
I didn't do anything.
You didn't
with
even
it.
acknowledge that it worked. And I'm kind of hurt over it.
Eddie, I'm here to tell you something, man. Listen, you're a construction guy, okay? I beg of you, stay in your lane, okay? Just stay in your lane, all right? This didn't need to see the light of day. It was just. I will say this one thing though, man. I was a little bit proud of you for skewing the text at a 30-degree angle and not just a nice 45. So, like, good job. Good job. You skewed text.
Gee, thanks. It's never good enough, Tom. It's never good enough, man. When it comes to creativity, it's just always like, you would have shot anything down.
Welcome to startup life.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Dude, well, all right. So I think this ties in pretty well with you, Tom, because innovation is kind of the topic of discussion today. And you've done a little bit of that with Civ Robotics. So, like, tell us about Civ, what it is today, what you guys do.
Awesome. So at Civ Robotics, we automate construction layout. We help contractors to build with precision using autonomous machines. Today, most construction companies do surveying manually with a handheld receiver. And we take that receiver, put it on a machine that drives on its own, positions itself above the coordinate, and physically marks it with a spray paint or laser to guide the field crew how to build correctly according to the blueprints. So in a nutshell, we draw the blueprints in real scale.
Very nice. So, like, explain the robot to me. Like, explain the whole platform. What does it look like?
So it's a four-wheel drive machine. It looks like a buggy. It's about 30 inches by 30 inches by 30 inches. It's nice and yellow, like most construction machinery today. And it drives around the job site, and customers name them different names: Betty, Ugly, Joey, Robot 8. Like, we have customers who have multiple machines already, so they're just like robot and a number. I'm like, okay.
Well, it would work really well with number 5 for all of the short circuit fans out there. Number 5's
Johnny
alive.
5.
Johnny 5.
I've got a pool robot named Kevin.
I've met Kevin. He's nice.
Yeah, why not? So this thing is like, it's a terrestrial robot, right? Like, this thing's actually crawling, like on wheels?
It has 4 wheels. We have different wheel types, and we have wheels that are all-terrain. We have wheels that are more for muddy terrain that's a bit wider. And we have these crazy sand terrain tires that have these like wavy look, and they have great traction as it's like floating around, able to handle the dunes in Texas, Arizona, California, anywhere.
I'm thinking of like the Mars rover when I'm thinking of the sandy wheels. Is that something close? Yeah,
something close. We actually posted about this on our social media once, and that was probably the most hits. I think it was like 200 something likes of these like unique tires driving around a job site in SoCal.
Nice, that's awesome. So, did you start out like let's go back to kind of the beginning? Did you start out with a driving robot? Take us through the process of your innovation here, right? Where did this idea come from? Let's start there.
So I'm a civil engineer by profession, and I used to hire surveying firms to do the construction layout for us. And they did this manually. People walking around doing the layout, or construction staking, also known as. And I was introduced to drone technology about a year into the job site for 3D modeling and 3D using photogrammetry and image processing, and it was really cool. And I'm like, awesome. So surveying has two jobs: measure what was built and marking where to build during the construction phase. And they do the first one with the drone, and the latter is still done manually. So I actually reached out to a CEO of a startup with drone technologies, and asked him, why can't you do layouts with a drone? And said, it's not possible. So we made it possible. And we've developed a drone that flies, lands, and drills a stake into the ground. Like physically drilling a stake into the ground.
That seems like a little bit of a complex process right there.
Very complex.
A lot of moving parts.
And you also have a lot of limitations. Needed to stay beneath 55 pounds from a FAA regulation perspective. So everything was custom made with carbon fiber stuff, and every pound mattered.
So, all right, how long did that go on? I know you chased the drone thing for a while, right?
For about almost 2 years in total. So in a year and a half, we had a lot of people along the way, excited about the drone. We love drones. We have drone operators. We have drone fleet. We have drone manager now. We have a UAV structure and everything. It's drones are awesome, right? Wrong. We came to the job site with a drone and with this short road show. And a lot of customers told us they were afraid of the drone because our drone is big. It was a 55-inch diameter. It was big, heavy lifter. And at that point, some of them told us if this would have been a ground platform, I would feel a lot safer and more comfortable with it. So we rolled up our sleeve and had 2 or 3 engineers work on the ground platform for about 2-3 months. Very rough, very raw. And we came back to the job sites, and out of 10 contractors who saw the ground and the drone, 8 of them preferred the ground. So at that point, I'm kill the drone, stop spending time on the drone, put the drone in a box, put it in the closet, put it in the mail room. I don't care. Don't touch it. And everyone yeah, but we're right there. We're almost there. We almost got it. I'm I don't care. Customer does not want it. Customer wants the ground platform. Let's put all our time and effort in the ground platform. And now we're about 3 years out since then with over 40 machines in the field. Customers love it, use it, feel safe about it. And it's super, super intuitive.
Just the pivot that would have had to happen, that had to cause a disturbance. What kind of ripple did you have amongst your engineers and everything? How did you interpersonally manage that? Because I know you had some blowback on that one, I'm sure.
Oh, totally. At first when you hire talent and all excited about the drone, they're all drone people that love drones. So and it was very hardware oriented because we literally designed the drone to be able to do what it was doing. We even designed the robotic arm to drill it into the ground. So it was a totally different ballgame. And within a year, the entire drone team left, in stages. And from a hardware company, we became more of a software company. We even bought the ground platform off the shelf at first before we actually designed and modified it to do what we wanted to do. And now we're a team of 10 engineers. 8 are in the software space, and 2 are just mechanical robotics, which it's really remarkable because before the marking mechanism was just a 3-axis system with a drill on it. Now we have a servo that just goes spray or laser.
It's funny when you're building something you get into this space or you're just imagining all sorts of different possibilities, right? You start just coming up with all sorts of different ideas, and it all just kind of, it's divergent thinking, right? You're just thinking out and trying to capture all of these different ideas, right? So often when that happens is you come up with an idea that, yeah, it could work, but you're going so far past the simplicity part of it. Because what you're describing with what you have right now with the ground platform, it's just yeah, it's a servo and some spray paint. And, you've got your, GPS on the back of it and it locates and everything like that. Super easy in comparison to mounting a drill to a drone.
We thought we will do the whole thing. A lot of our customers, still ask today, can you also drill with the machine? I'm like, yes, it's possible. But would you pay us more to do less of an output? And everyone's saying no. So why bother? We try to do that with the drone because, it's not safe to be around the drone when it's marking. And that's why we're doing it. We're drilling it.
So clarify the drilling aspect of it for me, because I don't know if I'm completely clear on that. What are you drilling for?
So when we're with the drone, we were physically drilling the stake into the ground. So we actually had an impact drill on the robot, drilling a stake, a custom-made stake that we made for the robot, for the drone days. Now, we just spray paint a dot about 1.5 inches to 2 inches diameter, or shoot with a laser pointer on the ground, and then the person hammers a nail, or a stake, or a flag, or nothing. Or just does a circle around with spray paint. I don't know what he does. He can choose the marker of his choice versus a stake that we have designed. And it was more like a consumable model. We'll also provide you the stakes and sell you the stakes for about $1. So investors love that idea, but it also takes the time to, educate the market to use these markers versus what they're used to. That's another challenge at itself. The smart stake is a challenge in its own product, but we came with a simpler model, simple solution. In the end of the day, the contract still has a marker in the ground as they used to do it. The question is, do they have 8 people doing it with the 4 handheld machines, or 1 or 2 people with a robot? The end result is the same. They don't care who and how it was done, as long as it's done correctly and precise enough.
Yeah, I mean, that would have created a bunch of other supply chain issues throughout your business too, if you were supplying stakes as well.
Yeah, totally different company structure and challenges.
So out of that, so you've kind of removed and stripped back all of that stuff to where it's a really simple, pretty dang simple solution. Operator wise, you'd mentioned 8 people in the field versus 2 people in the field now operating devices like these or robots like these. Kind of walk us through before it was this, now after it's this, and time savings and all of these other things I'm sure people are interested in.
Of course. So traditional manual layout is done with a 2-person crew, one holding the GNSS receiver on a pole, and the other one assisting carrying the markers, the nails and whiskers or stakes, and hammering it into the ground. A crew like this does on a job site anywhere from 200 to 400 points a day, depending on spacing and level of accuracy and the terrain they're facing. Marking on a road is much easier than marking in vegetation in the middle of muddy Texas after rain. So the challenges are different. And with our machine, one person follows the Civ dot and just puts in the markers, and that's it. And they can do anywhere from 700 a day to 3,000, depending on accuracy requirements. Because if you don't need to be that precise, the robot will mark 4 to 5 points a minute, but they need to be high precision, 2 to 3 points a minute.
Yeah, what kind of accuracy and precision are you dealing with?
So the base model comes configured to mark within 2 inches, but it can also do within 1 inch. It will just take a bit longer because it stops and just marks. While the high precision model is 3/100 of a foot, which is about 8 millimeters, really leveraging the full potential of the receiver that you have. So the robot stops within 2 to 3 inches. And then there's a robotic arm that shifts the marker, the laser pointer, to hit their exact point. So it's basically a robotic arm on a robot. So it's a robot on a robot. And that's how we fine tune towards the end versus having a person just go like this and do the fine tuning manually to be within that 300s, looking at a bubble and a screen. So the user experience is not, it's very tedious, very annoying. They're all day long, they look like this on the screen versus 2 hands are free. Follow the machine, and the machine will even guide you verbally. It will shout out the description of the point. So let's say you have, 4 types of markers: red, blue, black, and yellow. The robot will shout out, yellow, yellow, mark, yellow. Point on the ground, put the yellow marker. Goes next. Yellow, yellow, mark yellow, boom, boom. Blue, blue, mark blue, boom, boom. Making the life of the field crews simple, clean, worry-free. Don't have to deal with carrying as much load because it can carry the load for you as well. Don't have to look at the tablet and the screen like this all day long.
I've experienced that frustration before firsthand of, finding a point and you walk around, you're just kind of hunting and pecking at that point, just trying to find it. And they're like, you get really good at it too. Like there are people out there that are great, but especially like learning curve wise, oh my gosh, that takes a minute to nail that whole process, the traditional one, right? And so, yeah, I mean, simplifying that down. So you kind of have like two different avenues that you've taken there. So like one that's just a little bit more like not quite as accurate, like the 1 to 2 inch one, that's the spray paint. And then if you're trying to get down to just like gnat's eyelash, then you just have a laser that points in.
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha. So, I mean, on the operational side, are you having guys out there in the field that are running like 2 or 3 of these things at once and they're just running around just putting stakes in the ground? Like, what is that looking like?
So the biggest jobs that we've been on deploy 3 machines at once. Some do 2, but most do 1 now because we got to a point that's so fast that it's pretty amazing. And they actually went down from a 2-person crew to a 1-person crew using our technology now with a speaker that I mentioned. Beforehand, a lot of our customers had 2-person crews that one of them was looking at a tablet just saying the colors or the description. The other one was putting the nails in the ground. Now the robot is verbally saying out loud, shouting the description, taking the other person out of the equation. And customers who have a safety requirement of no one works alone, I'm all for that. So they get 2 machines, work in the same area, and it's good to go.
So that's like 1,400 points roughly a day. If it's 700 per, or am I getting that wrong?
700 per. That's for the high precision model, working 8-hour shifts.
What's the battery life on this joker? How long is that going to? I mean, 8 hours, or are you having to replace throughout the day?
You replace during lunch. It's called a hot swap, but it really depends on the terrain that you're facing. If you're facing, fairly easy terrain, you can run the whole day on the same battery.
Nice. That's so fascinating, man.
We've done an episode or 5 minute before on like, no matter how far you go down the wrong road, turn back.
Yeah.
It reminds me of just kind of the path you guys have taken where you had the boldness to just say, yep, yeah, drone wasn't so much it. Like, we're going to go to this terrestrial model. I can really appreciate the fact that you were able to pivot like that and do this in any way. Interested, what do you need? Like civil 2D drawing, is that what you're shooting points from? And like, how important is it, like, from the standpoint of BIM? Are you doing only like the civil layout, or are you also doing interior layouts? Like, what does all that look like?
Mm-hmm. So today, the majority of our customers are using us for heavy civil work. I like to say there's vertical construction and horizontal. So today, mostly horizontal projects. Typical input is a CSV file, just points, or a DXF, which is drawings or line work. And from that line work, we can also generate points for us. So let's say you have a parking lot that's coming in a DXF file. You upload that to our software. You choose the spacing. You choose the length of the line. So you could do, let's say you have a 10-foot line. So you want to do a foot yes, a foot no. And it'll just do, foot with spray, foot without, foot with spray, foot without. And of course, the last point we're going to definitely mark it because we don't want to. You want to know where that end point, that end line. So we have the planning capabilities in our software. We're very lucky. We also have Trimble is one of our investors. Trimble is leading geospatial provider in the industry, and we are working on integrating to robotic total station. Will provide more value to customers, especially in the bridges and other higher precision requirements. Customers may use this also for indoor layout, but we're focusing mainly on points and lines. We're not going full blown to print things inside the building with instructions on it. We can give that verbally as well. There's other solutions out there who are literally printing the drawing in real scale inside the building for vertical. We focus on outdoor, rough terrain, where challenge is greater and where the pain is greater, because our industry is suffering from a huge shortage of labor, and this pain is far greater in remote job sites, far from metropolitans and cities. Good luck finding people an hour and a half away from Odessa, Texas. But in the city, you should be fine. You'll find talent. They might be more expensive, but you'll find in the end someone to do the work.
I just feel like this is a burgeoning career for so many people as a robotic operator. We've talked about this a lot. Like, are you seeing that as a potential possibility? Like, are you training people in-house to go operate, or are you handing these out to people and saying, like, all right, we're giving you the training, you go perform it for your own crew? How is that working for you? Because I could see a person buying a whole bunch of these things and just turning into a robot operator. Like, this could be killer.
So we have a mixture of customers. Some are service providers, like surveying firms that used to sending out 30 people, 30 crews to job sites and do the work. And one of them just got 5 of our machines. And now they do this with, instead of sending out 3-4 crews to a job site, they send 1 or 2 people with our machines. And we have also contractors who rent these machines from us, and we train them how to operate themselves. And they're good to go. And they move it from one job to another on their own. We're not targeting a specific project. They use it on one job, and then from that point on, they can move it from one job to another one. We don't care how many points they mark, where they mark. It's theirs, and they can use it like a toolbox wherever they go to.
That's one of the things that we've seen is like people leasing these out, but you have to get an operator with it, right? Like they send one of their crew members out, or you would send one of your crew members out to support them on the job.
We provide the first training and to the customer's operator, and at that point, they usually just train themselves. And we also have online training available for all our customers to access all the time. So we don't send an operator for more than 1 day for training, basically. And even that we're trying to avoid now, because everything's available online, and we pre-configure the machines to work on their job site immediately. The only time we actually go to jobs and they really need to be there is to help them out with setting up their base station and connectivity and network stuff, because they don't have that in-house. But if they do have it in-house, they don't really need us there, except for just for assurance.
That's, it's funny because like if you look at where you guys were at again, like if we go back to the drone thing, like you would have had to train people like crazy for that, right?
Not only that, you also have to have you had to have a FAA license. We don't train that. And then we have to go and train them how to use a machine and how to deal with the batteries. Just example, 4 batteries in the drone were good for about an hour of operation. So a customer would have had to have at least 16 or 20 batteries rotating and charging all day long. And today we give them 2 batteries for a full day. Same batteries, actually. So the customer experience and operation wise is so much easier. And anyone can operate the machine. You don't have to have FAA license. You don't even have to have a driver license. 4 buttons, that's it.
You need a whole dedicated truck just to carry your batteries.
You're laughing. We have a customer right now actually with our machine, with our Civ Dots, that actually got a trailer for our machines, has all the gear he needs there. So he has the nails, whiskers, and even the charging for the batteries there. And they drive it to the field, unload the robots from it, do the work, load it back, drive back to the office trailer, and they charge it overnight, and then they go back the next day.
What about licensed surveyors? Like, is that somebody you put this in the hands of? And is there any kind of necessity to put that in the hands of somebody that's licensed?
An interesting thing about surveying and layout. In order to do layout, you don't have to be a certified surveyor in most states. You need to have a surveyor to measure the land and put control points on the job site, and also to do as-builts, but not to mark where to build. It doesn't mean that surveying firms don't offer construction staking as well, which they do. But we see more tendency of the contractor taking this responsibility on their own. We do have surveying firms that use us and use our technology. Just like they get a Trimble receiver, they can get a Civ dot with a Trimble receiver on it. And it's like a tool. And we do see that in the field itself, the people actually doing the construction staking are not surveyors. They may be surveying technicians, but they're not a certified surveyor. They're being sent by a certified surveyor who did the data prep. And some customers still just outsource that to a surveying firm to do the data prep. And they train their own people to do the actual construction staking.
It's interesting. I mean, as innovation happens, how we can gray and blur lines just by, hey, got a new tool, and all of a sudden this doesn't take what it used to.
Look, we had drones do this in the beginning. A lot of drone companies, surveyors were kind of afraid that they're taking the as-built portion out of it. But today, if you're a surveying firm without a drone, you're doing something wrong. Like, there's no point covering thousands of acres of land manually. We just fly a drone and be done within a day. Doesn't make sense.
Well, you could fight all the brush and all the other stuff too. That's always a good time. Get your machete out. I don't know. Some people just like machetes. So
actually, funny thing about that is that we have a few customers actually using our machine instead of a drone for topographic measurements, because when the drone flies and there's vegetation, it could be 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches. You don't know. But when the machine drives there, it literally drives on the land because it drives through the vegetation and measures it. So we found customers in the heavy civil world that lost millions of dollars in their estimates because they relied on data that was from drones that did not have a, let's say, foot on the ground to measure it, and they were off by inches on acres. And then, dirt world is not cheap. Moving dirt is not fun, and even design changes had to be done to accommodate that.
It's one of those things, like we were talking about that with laser scanning the other day, where it's like, oh, you could go out and you could laser scan something, and that's great, but also that's a lot of weight. Like, that's a lot of data that you've got to collect. Whereas if you were just to do a 360 walkthrough or something like that, that's more than enough. So, like, I think in that case, it's a matter of you got to know what level of detail you need to go to, and then just crank it up from there. But I mean, it makes total sense to me that you'd be able to generate a topo that's super accurate from just driving across the land versus a drone. Now, I mean, they both have their pros and cons, though, right? Like, they both have their use cases.
Correct. The product exists for both. I will say the bigger the land, of course, the drone is a better fit, but you don't want to fly a drone for, let's say, a solar block, which is about 5 to 6 acres. You're not going to fly a drone just for that area and wait for the data to be processed versus having the robot drive for an hour, 2 hours, even, who cares? And then you get the topo immediately, because our data, from a data perspective, we're talking kilobytes versus drone imaging that needs to do stitching and needs to have control points, and then you have to select them manually. Takes time. But yeah, if you take that same time and do it on 5,000 acres, awesome. But for 3-4 acres, the data side is the same thing for them. If it's 3 acres or 5,000, their process is the same with drones.
So are you pre-programming a path for it to take if you're doing this? So it's just going to do kind of a zigzag pattern across the land? Yeah,
it's very similar to what you do with drones. We do a polygon, and then you choose your spacing, and then it just goes and does it.
Next part of this question, right, is as you're going through, if you're doing this pattern across, your land, and it's running into vegetation, like a tree or a bush or something like that, did you guys build in the self-awareness to be able to move around that, or are you having to manually kind of move that around? What does that process look like?
Great question, first of all. At first, we actually have a obstacle detection and avoidance system, and most of our customers actually disabled it because the machine doesn't really know if, like you said, it's a tree or if it's a bush or if it's a bit of vegetation on the grass. So a lot of our customers, because they are following it because they're doing the layout, that's the majority of our customers, they disabled it and they just run through everything. But we have the capability to stop, alert the operator, and we have a higher advanced system that can also go around it. But majority of our customers don't ask that add-on because, the right tool for the right job. And most of our customers use this for layout. And along the way, they leverage it also for topos. And usually if the land is right in front of them, they see there's trees there. And it's usually open fields, more like ag land. And it's pretty straightforward. They disable the obstacle detection and just let it fly.
I'm curious. I want to go back and ask, what does as-built mean in your world? I know what it means in mine. What does it mean in your world?
So as-built means what was built, and basically measuring what was built. And in the heavy civil world, it's usually means what's the elevation of the ground after the heavy civil crews, spread the dirt or change, cut and fill and in different levels. So let's say you have a road, you first have to dig, you have to measure. You have to put one layer, then you have to measure. Another layer, you have to measure. In the end of the project, you have to measure the whole thing. And that's usually called an as-built for the entire project. But in between those phases, you have to also do as-builts for QA, QC. DOTs have their different requirements. So as-built is measuring what was done versus we mark usually where to do the actual work.
Cool. I appreciate you kind of clarifying that, because then in maybe the vertical construction side, that might be a little different than in the civil side of things.
I'm glad you clarified that too.
Yeah. Well, because it's a difference, because I'm going, well, so I don't know. It just kind of my mind ran amok with scanning and reality capture and some of these things. And,
of course.
And it's a little different. There was a little nuance there. So next question that would be a little different, a little gear shift here, but I'm kind of envisioning as this thing is kind of traversing the grounds that it's consistently picking up and kind of logging where it is. So like what does that look like? Because it seems like if I've got a polygon and I'm canvassing that polygon at set intervals, and I'm capturing something about that polygon, that you're reading data throughout the process of traversing that.
Correct. So majority of our customers are using us for layout. So they have the coordinates that they want to mark. And if you want to do topo, you can choose actually while the mission is happening to also do a topo. So you can choose to measure the X, Y, and elevation of every 3 seconds, every Y feet of distance of travel, or every Z change of elevation. You can do either or and. So customers can use our topo feature while they're doing a layout mission or on its own. So they're getting all this data and a very clean report called the CSV, again, very standard in our industry. And they can spit it out in an email or on the tablet that we provide our customers. They can upload that to any geospatial data that they want, softwares for digital twin, for Cloud Point, whatever they want to leverage it for. If it's Trimble software, Esri software, we don't care.
That's interesting though. So you're generating the topo and you can run the points at the same time, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and that wouldn't traditionally be the case though, right?
Nope.
That's fascinating.
Usually do one or the other. And it's really cool that when we mark the point, we also do a topo for that point. And that point is actually more precise because you stay there longer versus measuring while you drive. And when we're doing the topo while we drive and when we also mark the points, we also monitor the quality of the GNSS receiver. And we show that in our reports as well. So if the quality was, let's say, an inch of X and Y and 2 inches in elevation, we present that for that point. But if we do the layout and we do a topo there, the quality of that measurement is higher because we actually stopped there and took, and say 2 or 3 or 5 or as many seconds you want. The longer you wait, the higher precision the elevation measurement is. That's why you get that high quality within like 2 seconds. But for elevation, I would say 5 to 10. And you can bring it down to almost half an inch of elevation measurement quality when you do it this way.
That's really cool that you can do kind of a dual purpose thing and just fire through all of that at the same time and not have to do the go back routine and like, okay, we're going to do a topo now. Like you can get all of that in one run. That's cool.
So there's nothing worse than clicking on a podcast that you thought was going to be about one thing and then getting another. And so I want to, no, I'd say that tongue in cheek, but like, I'm just sitting here thinking about like, Tom, I want to kind of ping you on this whole arc of innovation thing. And just, this could be a total train wreck. We'll just see where it goes. So let's have fun. But where do you think in construction we could take a lesson from you, man? Like, where do you think we could take a lesson from you and say, we're trekking down this road, but maybe we got a wrong idea here? Like, do you see anything that sticks out that you would call out and just be like, yeah, maybe we need to reevaluate, or we're a little higher on this than we ought to be?
I would say one thing that I've learned a lot, and I would share this, experience and knowledge from spending, starting this company from ground zero, is that contractors need to spend a bit more time and capital on R&D. If it's internal R&D or working with startups for trial and error, because, we've been doing things for so long and it's been okay. But construction projects are becoming more complex, bigger, and the labor shortage is just growing. So we have to try more things. And I would say avoid buying new technologies right away. Try before you buy, rent, or have some sort of subscription to try things out. Try multiple things for the same problem. Try change your process instead of, changing the whole thing at once. And make a wise decision based on trial and error, and then choose the right thing that works for you and just continue with that, because you can face the problem and solve it in different ways. And one solution might work for you and the other solution might work for the other person. And that's totally fine. But don't make a commitment at day zero after only hearing one solution. And then when the better solution comes out, you're like, no, I already made my investment. I'm not going to change things, even though it's very clear that the latest solution is better. And if you already, put a couple millions in it, you're not going to, convince your boss to spend another $1 million on this new technology, because a year later you might change your mind. Oh, another thing came out, but you already put this capital to work and you want your ROI, and that's a shame you won't leverage it if you already bought this thing, and now you're kind of stuck with it until the 5-year period of ROI is gone.
I gotta say, man, the rental advice is probably one of the biggest unlocks I think I've found in my own business. Because there's that desire for me, especially, to go out and like buy a brand new Arri Mini LF, cinema camera or something like that I can tote out with me to every job site that I go visit. Like, that makes no freaking sense. All right. And I may not need all of that for what I'm doing too. Right. Like, it may make more sense to do this other camera package or this. Same thing applies in construction or any other business, right? Try it out. Like, keep renting, keep, refining your process by just using them once when you need them, instead of having to just pay out of pocket for this massive piece of gear. And I feel like a lot of times people get caught in that cycle of like, oh, I got to buy the new $70,000 toy if I want to use it. No, you really don't. You could rent it for $400, like, and experience it and make sure it's right.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because we have a customer who said, I'm going to buy your system. I want to buy. I have the capital. I want to spend. I want to buy it. I'm like, are you sure you want to buy it? Like, we're going to iterate. We're a startup. We grow fast. We change. And they bought it. And I know they also bought a bunch of other GNSS receivers. And when that job was over, they just trashed it. They're just like not using it. It's like in a crate somewhere and not using it. And that same customer got more machines afterwards. Even though they have a machine in their facility somewhere, locked somewhere. They don't even know where it is. And they put this capital to work for about a year. Just, they would have, if they would have read it for a year, it would have been almost the same. But if that machine now breaks or they want to use it again, look, it's out of warranty, subscription is out, it's out of date. And that's, capital that went down the drain. And I don't say stuck with it, because I will probably, offer something to refurbish it or upgrade them, whatever. But they found a job they can put the capital expense on and used it, which is great, but then they're stuck with, they don't know what to do with it now.
So if you're in the market, we know a guy.
You might need to help them find it, though.
That's right. If they could find it, you might be in business. And dude, challenge met or accepted met, because I love the R&D example, because it really does tap into that fear, like the fear of failure, right? We don't want to do R&D because we see like we might waste money. Like we might throw money at something that doesn't work out. And it's like, yeah, well, I mean, yes, that's how you figure things out. Like a lot of the first half of our careers could probably go in that bin. We're just figuring it out, right?
Currently going through it, everybody.
when people come to our offices and meet with us in the conference room, I have our first Civ drone, the drone that is there, and our first Civ dot that's there. I'm like, that's a $2 million piece of furniture. And that's, a $100,000 early investment in our first prototype for the ground platform. And it picked up, and now we have what we have. So it's really, there's, like I said, trial and error for a startup and for the customer. And also, not be afraid of failing and getting your head up and do it again or change it up. Even today, we've spent months of R&D on the striping system, on how to determine when to turn on and turn off the actuator to keep that line straight. Or we even had a robotic arm that moves in real time to compensate for the driving, keeping straight of the line. And we invested in both technology at the same time to improve driving straight and the robotic arm that moves. And the driving straight ended up being great. And that we don't need to have the robotic arm moving all the time. And we had an engineer work on that for 6 months easy.
Golly. I think, people are so crippled by this idea of failing. And the reality of it is that it's learning every single time you fail. You're learning something new.
True. And maybe at some point we'll use that, IP for something else. We don't know. But we have learned a lot from it and improved things along the line. And it's a great challenge to have also.
So if anybody needs a robotic arm on a gimbal, then, contact Tom. He's got one for you. So
we have a junkyard downstairs.
Heck yeah.
One of my suppliers came out of the day and just like, Tom, you remember that small 6-wheel drive that we started with and played around with in the beginning? I'm like, yeah. And he took it. Now he's like, gonna make it like a mini fridge that drives around his office. Like, okay.
A drivable mini fridge?
Yes.
What R&D can do for you?
Oh,
I'm already thinking about making myself a what's it called? A suitcase that just follows me in the airport, and I can like drive it with a remote control as well.
They've made one of those. They did make one of those. Have you seen those? I thought you sent me the link.
Maybe I did.
You? Okay.
Kind of old.
No, it's literally. Oh crap! I gotta find
I've seen an iRobot that cleans up dog in the as well. And that company failed. Like they raised like $500,000 and they went into ashes. Like, who's gonna spend so much money on a machine that picks up poop?
Everybody said it was crap when they saw it. So anyway, I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm a dad. Anyway, no, what is the name of that robot? I'll figure it out and I'll put it in the show notes, everybody. But
no, I did send you that.
It's like a cooler thing, and it will follow you around.
Yeah, that's like basically all it does.
And it's got like eyeballs and stuff too, and it's like kind of interactive, I think. Maybe.
The link will be in the show notes.
There's one that follows you for grocery stuff.
Yeah, like just your errands and things,
Yeah, there's one that I know. It's called I think Piaggio, something PFF or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Dude, we'll take it.
It's not the suitcase one. I'm talking about like an actual carry-on suitcase that just follows you around.
That would be pretty cool. If you come up with that, I'll take it, dude. With camera gear and stuff too, please God, make a Pelican that can just follow me, like a Pelican case. That'd be freaking awesome.
I have a bunch here for the drones if you want to just do them.
Okay, sounds good. No, I want wheels on it though, man. I want to be able to ride it through the airport and run people over.
You don't want to have to walk.
I don't want to have to walk. I just want to be lazy.
You can sit on it and it'll drive you.
Yeah, there you go. I'm just sore from pickleball. I'm just sore from pickleball.
We're headed toward Wally. It's like
It's funny. One of our first platform that we considered getting looked like a Wally.
Yeah.
Nice.
And like I thought about putting eyes on it and all that stuff. And I'm like, you know what? Contractors need this machine to work. It doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be pretty. It has to work and be reliable. Putting, stickers on for Wally, it's cute, but in the end of the day, it's a tool.
For sure. All right, Tom. We went off the path here, but I think it's time to ask you our megaphone question. All right. So if we gave you a megaphone in around 60 seconds to speak to the whole industry, what would you want to say? What would you want to leave with?
Construction automation is coming. If you want it or don't, it's going to be there. It's going to help customers to build infrastructure and buildings faster, more precise, and empower us to reach our goals as an industry. And it's time to be open to adopting these sort of things, because if you don't adopt it and it's going to come and you're going to stay behind, it's a shame to see, these well-established businesses, I don't say go bankrupt, but really go behind and not evolve with it. Because in the end of the day, we are here, to run a business. We are here to build America again, I guess. And in order to do that, it has to be a change. It has to be a group effort to reach that goal. And automation is one of the only solutions that actually solves that. It's not the only way of doing it, but we need to have multiple technology solutions that mitigate that gap. And it's time to hop on the train. Otherwise, you'll be behind, and that's a shame.
It's a good word, man. That's a good word. Hey, I forgot to ask you, what's your dog's name back there?
I have two dogs. This is Joey behind me here. And she's a co-founder. She was when I started the company, I got her. I'm no longer in the office, in the job site every day. I couldn't bring my dog to the office in the field. And I started this company. I'm like, I can take this. And she actually went to job site with me as a puppy. And, it's crazy. People, love it.
Gotta love an office dog there, man. Sorry, I held out until the end, everybody. I'll have you know, I held out to the end before I asked that question. So, Tom, thanks for joining us this week, man.
Thanks for having me.